Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the 12 Talk podcast. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us, who's listened in, who's watched, who's followed us on social media. We still got a lot of these coming in. It's been absolutely amazing. And hearing all of you guys in our Discord as well. We have got today a fantastic guest who we will introduce to you after we hit the theme music. But first of all, Mitch, how's it going, dude?
Hello. Yeah, very good. It feels like we're being drip fed lots of nice bits of news at the moment. The coaching team's taking shape, and big boards are evolving and moving around. And I'm licking my lips at some of the opportunities we might have this off season. You know me. Any excuse to talk draft. So
Give it time.
yeah,
Give it time.
I'm just really excited. I think we're looking, even if it's not a better sort of end result this year. Maybe we end up 10-7, 9-8 again. It will be learning a new system, starting a new, it's genesis of a new era, and I think that's as exciting as anything. So right now, I am licking my lips.
Oh, dude, honestly, all the news of the coaches today. We'll go through the coaches, the main hires, and then obviously all of the assistant coaches underneath them. Just before we start talking cap, but we'll talk about all of this with our special guest, Brayden, from the NOBULLSPORTS podcast. But first of all, should we maybe hit the theme music?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Still absolutely love it. Every single time I hear it. Massive thanks to Slim Genix. You can find him on SoundCloud. There you go. There's your little plug, dude. And we're very proud and very happy to introduce to you our latest 12 on the 12 Talk podcast, Brayden Toro from the NOBULLSPORTS podcast. How are you doing, dude?
Living the dream. Can't complain.
Living the dream, nice and simple. I like it. Well, for anyone who's joining us who may not know about the Noble podcast, do you want to tell everyone what it's about?
Okay. So I'm a part of Breaking Down the Tape Media. I'm probably the cleanest podcast out of the bunch. Awesome guys. They've got potty mouths. I don't have one of those. But NOBULLSPORTS, what it basically covers is I'm a girl dad, so I focus more on the women's side of sports. So I interview a lot of female athletes, spotlight their stories. Got some pretty big names coming up. I won't drop the name yet, but I'm interviewing someone from the women's Philippines national soccer team here coming up if the schedules can align. But yeah, I love it. It's fun. Being a girl dad has been my calling. I enjoy it. So, and I figured why not do something that my daughter can enjoy as well too. She likes making appearances on my podcast and talking to my guests. So.
I've tuned into quite a few. So I'm a girl dad myself. I'm an ex-women's rugby coach. So knowing that you were focusing on the women's side of sport, I thought was absolutely fantastic to use a platform like this. It's very rare that men talk about this thing. For me at the moment, women's rugby is a huge thing in the UK, and I'm all about trying to push it forward. Just women's sport in general, as long as it's not sort of like the lingerie football league. But that's now something else now, isn't it? Where I've seen some of the hits go in, and they terrify me. Those ladies, I'm sure they're lovely, but I would never take a field with them. So, Brayden,
there's a women's tackle league that isn't lingerie here. So, and I was the commentator last season for their home games, the Las Vegas Silver Stars. That was a very cool experience. Sitting up in the box, calling the games. I've never done that before, so highly recommend it. Like you said, these women can hit. And I commented on your rugby post, and I tagged Barbie. She is the defensive tackle for the Silver Stars. Holy Toledo, I would not want to go up against her because she would break me in half. So
yeah, dude, it's terrifying. I used to hold tackle bags for some of my girls, and You know, like where you get knocked on your butt and you think, oh yeah, I'm absolutely fine. But someone else just take this. I've got something else to do, and you're walking away sort of clutching a rib or something. Anyway, Brayden, you've joined us. Where this is episode 2 of Talking Cap. So we're going to go over. Last week we had Jonas Meister on, the German Seahawkers, and Mitch. You discussed some possible cap scenarios, how it can impact the team going forward. We'll be doing the same again today. I've got one that I'm going to add in as well. Mitch has got one, and Brayden, you've got some stuff that you want to discuss with it as well.
Yeah.
We're also going to just start with having a quick look over the new coaches. Obviously, as we said in the intro, there are a plethora of coaches coming through. Sort of the main coordinators are filled now, and then we've got all of the assistants being filled, barring 2, I believe. So should we get into that?
Yeah,
let's do that.
Nice one. All right, guys. So let's do it this way. First of all, Mike McDonald. I have put the age in here because I think it's such a big factor on this. So when you look at Mike McDonald and you look at his career, obviously we've now heard him in interviews talking about he had to retire, and he had a neck injury, I believe, which is why he had to retire from playing football. So that's something very close to my heart, having suffered a spinal injury. But he's taken the step into coaching. And I've noticed one thing about all these, when I was doing my research, there's a lot of quality control. And I personally, I'm not sure what quality control means when it comes to coaching. Is it someone stood on the sideline? If anyone wants to enlighten us in the comments or anything, we're more than happy to take it. Or do either of you guys know?
I don't.
I'd imagine, I'm taking a stab in the dark here in the absence of anyone clarifying. I'd imagine there's an awful lot of backroom stuff with tape analysis and things like that. So I could very much imagine, with his attention to detail with the Ravens system, that he probably spent a lot of time in those sort of systems, doing some of the background work on tape analysis and preparing different things for different coaches, and something similar to that. I imagine that's very much a background role.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in quality control and insurance, and for me, that was just making sure people were doing what they were told. Like, so I saw that and went, is he just sort of grading coaches to make sure that they're okay? But again, we're happy for anyone to comment on this, either on YouTube, on X, if the Insta's worked. If not, I'll be working that out for next week. And then you see sort of the progression for him, and I think the stats speak for themselves. You know, you look at the Michigan defense, some of the stats in Michigan weren't amazing, but then he comes to Baltimore as a DC, and this season, what he managed to do with that defense, I thought was outstanding. I mean, as a guy who just defense is my jam, I love it. Seeing the way they were getting to the quarterback, you know, the takeaways, everything. It just, I know we wax lyrical about him for the last, since his hire, but I can't stop. I'm just so excited by it. I mean, I know, Mitch, you feel the same. And you've got a lot of stuff we'll discuss about scheme fits and how that's going to go, and they're going to be really interesting conversations. I'm just going to sit back and let you go. But Brayden, with this, what are your thoughts with him?
Well, defense wins championships, and so a graphic I saw is one of the big reasons we hired him. They demolished the Rams and they demolished the 49ers this past season. I mean, they didn't really demolish the Rams. That game went into overtime. But they did demolish the 49ers, and that was our Achilles heel this past season. Losing all 4 of those games was tough. So I think that's really why he brings a different mindset, and hopefully he can take all these young studs that we have on defense and make them into ball hawks and get us back to the Super Bowl.
That's my big thing. I mean, there was a lot of talk about defensive, offensive head coach, and we all wanted to see the offense explode. But defensively, I think that's where we were really lacking. Our offense wasn't great last season or this season, but defensively, it was the most infuriating thing to watch. And I think by going with someone like McDonald, it's just going to elevate, like I said, all those young guys, make them absolute studs, ball hawks. We can get to the quarterback with who we've got, and obviously we'll discuss who we might re-sign later on. I think it's a win-win. Then next, I had to put him in there because, and then you look at the ages. So we've gone from 36 to an assistant head coach at 64, and you'll notice that the font size on this gets a lot smaller because there's a lot of coaching. What's going on with this guy, Leslie Frazier? So he spent last season as an NFL analyst for the NFL Network. Before that, he was the assistant head coach DC at Buffalo, and you just keep going back through everything he's done. Obviously with the Vikings, he started out as the DC, became the assistant head coach, an interim head coach, but the seasons where he was head coach weren't great. We won't talk about those numbers. And then you go all the way back, and he's just defensive minded. He was a cornerback for the Bears. I didn't realize until he had to retire because he obtained a knee injury, but he finished with 20 career interceptions. And I think he was only in the league for like 3 years.
That's
You know?
impressive.
I mean, if you've got a young head coach in Mike McDaniel and you want to put an assistant head coach in there, someone who's knowledgeable, been around the game, I think the credentials there speak for themselves. I mean,
yeah, for me, I think one of the biggest things about Leslie Frazier is he's renowned for having such a good vibe and energy, and he's so popular with coaching staffs. You know, and the fact that he ended up as an NFL analyst points to the fact he's vastly experienced, and he's a really interesting guy to listen to, and he's popular. I think that's an ideal person to have guiding a young group of coaches, someone that's likable and brings good energy, and I think that's a really good. It's almost like almost like having that Pete advisory role that was, hinted at, someone who's got the experience and helps with the culture. I think that's a big tick next to Leslie Frazier.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a smart hire, as we hired 3 guys that have no really experience being the head coach, being the guys. Where he has that experience, he can kind of keep them grounded and show them the ropes, so to speak.
I think that's it. It's that guiding presence. People probably will hope that Pete was going to be that guiding presence if he stayed as an advisory role, but I think we all knew in our heart of hearts that was never going to sort of stick. It'd just be that battle for the top there, and I don't think that'd be fair on a new head coach. But I like this hire. I don't know how long he's going to be with the team. It might be a matter of, take McDonald, mold him, show him the ropes, and then let him fly, and then Fraser can just take a back seat, do more analysis. Can't even get my words out now. Analysis, or just retire. He's been doing it for a long time. And then we come on to, I love this picture. Just this. I don't know if that's a play caller just celebrating and just throwing up the horns. I see him as a Rock fan, so that's it. This is the offensive coordinator. So Ryan Grubb was with the Huskies last season, and then there was the 2 weeks where he was with Bama.
Yeah.
And then got the call from the Seahawks. Now this is what I'm really excited about. From our offense last season to this season, looking at how he was able to use that wide receiving core as well. Again, his coaching credentials have been a running back, wide receiver, quarterbacks coach as well in various universities. And he turned Michael Penix into he's going to be a first-round draft pick, supposedly. This is another pod that we'll be going through to see what people think. And I've seen first round, second round, third round, maybe undrafted due to his injury history. But this, I'm excited to see. His age as well, But then again, quarterbacks in this league play till they're in their late 30s. So mid-20s isn't, in my opinion, not bad. This excites me. I'm just looking forward to what he can do with the weapons we've got, depending on who we retain. Guys, what are your thoughts?
I love the hire. I think what's really cool about Ryan Grubb is, he plays a spread West Coast offense. So we've been playing West Coast offense with Waldron, but the spread West Coast offense is typically a means to try and use high quality offensive weapons and give them a yard of space to make plays in. And I can see a couple of players that we have that are very young really thriving in that. Ken Walker is a guy who, when you put him in a one-on-one situation, he breaks some ankles and slams the accelerator and really uses that space. Having wide receivers more spread out, spreading coverage accordingly, and hitting Ken Walker, is a great idea. And also Jackson Smith and Jigba is another one who, with his field vision, when he receives the ball, get it in his hands early, get some yak. I think that's another player there. And DK obviously thrives on a physical mismatch in a one-on-one situation. So we've got all the tools, and he harped on about it in his first interview, didn't he? The quality of the weapons he gets to use. That was really obvious in Washington, where he had Polk, McMillan, and Adunze. That was a crazy set of weapons for that level of football. And he's got a really talented core.
And he name dropped Bobo specifically as well.
Yeah,
which excites me. I've had this conversation before. I think, like a Pokemon, his final evolution is going to be that of a really mobile tight end. When they realise that they can't quite slot him in as a wide receiver, if they draft any more, it might be, look, we already know he's a great blocker. We know he can run routes. We know he can catch in the end zone. He's a threat. I wouldn't be surprised if they turned around and said, look, we might try him there. But Brayden, what were you thinking?
I'm excited about this too, because he took a Washington team. They were at 13-1. I don't want to blame refs, but in that championship game, there was a lot of no calls on holding on the receivers that I think could have changed the outcome of the game. It also hurt that Washington's running back, their star running back, wasn't at 100% either. So I'm excited for what he brings to the table, because that Washington offense was explosive. They were fun to watch. I watched a lot of their games being on the West Coast. Anytime Utah loses, I'm in a great mood, because as a BYU fan, screw Utah. So, So it was beautiful seeing what he could do to Utah. So I'm excited with this move.
I'm the same. We've got some comments coming in, but I'll just say to Ben, Bobo, yes. I mean, I think he's found this sort of cult following from being this, the wide receiver who ran nearly a 5-second 40, and people didn't know what to make of him. But then you see his UCLA tape and you realize what he can do. And we saw what he could do last season. I'm really excited to see what we can do bringing him in. I mean, we've got an offense, defensive coordinator. Now, as a British-based Seahawks podcast, this excites me, because any of our US listeners, followers, watchers, anything, may not realize that American football is a growing sport in the UK. We've got multiple amateur teams, semi-pro teams dotted around the country. Most universities play it now. The influx of talent we get is amazing, and I think that translates here. I see this as a hire from McDonald, who sees a very similar personality and very similar coach, who he's already said he's going to call the defensive plays to start with. But if he can get Aiden Durde to sort of follow in his footsteps, it means he can take that back seat, have the overarching view of everything, and just let him roll. I love this guy. Every interview I've seen with him, he's just an absolute dude. He's just having fun with it. He knows he's in such a privileged position to be there. But I mean, when I was looking through his history, I mean, you look at his history here. It started with the London Olympians, went to the Scottish Claymores as part of the European Football League. I can't remember what it was called. And then he was the Hamburg Sea Devils. Then he was part of the International Development Player Practice Pathway. That's the one. With the Panthers, went back to the Sea Devils, then went to Kansas City on the practice squad, but very much doing the same thing. And from there, he's gone, I think my playing days are over. I don't know if he had an injury or what. I still need to do that. And then you look at what he's done just going through. I mean, defensive coordinator at London Warriors, which I'm pretty sure the Olympians weren't too happy about. But he then went to the Cowboys as a coaching intern. Perfect. Then was the head of football development at NFL UK. Didn't even know that. Went to the Falcons on the Bill Walsh NFL diversity coaching fellowship. Then back to the Falcons. And then he was at Dallas. last season as a defensive line coach. And now he's taken the step up with the big boys to become the defensive coordinator of the Seahawks. I've already said I'm really excited about this. I can't wait for more interviews from him, to be honest. Guys, go for it.
Yeah, so we had this again from Ben, saying that don't forget he's got the same mentality. I think you mentioned it, that he has that same sort of vibe. I think what's really interesting with this is if you've got a defensive coordinator that's not going to be calling plays, right, and you've also got a defensive head coach that's renowned for creating so many different versions of the same defensive package, so that quarterbacks don't know what you're calling when the ball snapped, right? He's not going to be designing plays either. So if your defensive coordinator isn't designing plays and isn't calling plays and has a background as a defensive line coach, and we haven't yet hired a defensive line coach, I have to feel like this is kind of a hybrid role that he's doing, that's going to be defensive line, defensive assistant coach. It feels like kind of a hybrid thing. He's probably McDonald's got things that he did at Baltimore that he thinks as a head coach now he probably can't juggle.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if part of Aiden Durday's kind of evolution into eventually becoming a fully fledged defensive coordinator is learn my playbook, do these things that I can't do anymore. It's kind of a like a phase one of turning him into something that he believes he can be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do that with someone, you have to, as a bare minimum, believe in their personality. You need to be able to go, that's a guy worth investing this. I'm going to turn this great guy into what I need him to be in a couple of years. So there's a big investment in him as a personality, which is even more impressive when you think that he's a guy from the UK. So it presents more of a risk. Like, why are you hiring this guy from the UK in such an important position and not letting him call plays? It shows huge faith in him as a person. That's my take.
Like, football acumen doesn't have to be any sport. It doesn't have to be the native country to that sport. If you love it, you invest your time in it, you research it. I mean, I'll shout out Matty F. Brown. If anyone listens to the Seattle Overload podcast, you'll know he knows his X's and O's. That man has studied the game. And I think this is proof there as well. Brayden, what are your thoughts, dude?
I'm just hoping our defensive line is a focus point, because that's been a biggest issue the last 2 seasons. So I love this hire. And I've seen a lot of grumbling that we hired a lot of coaches that this is their first big time role. I think it's going to be good. Let them run wild, because we've been in the same rut for the last couple years. Let's change the script a little bit. Let's see what can work, because we have the talent. There's just a couple pieces that we're missing. We potentially could make a Super Bowl run in the next couple years if the pieces continue to fall in the right places. So I'm excited with this.
I mean, it's with sport, with business, you can stagnate if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's the definition of madness, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, The way sports, businesses, people evolve is by bringing in new stuff, untried, untested ideas, new coaching staff, younger personnel. I think this is just a building block now to what could potentially change the way the Seahawks are seen, because we'll have new ideas coming in, obviously new personnel, new packages, which I know Mitch has been doing a lot of reading up on, and more in-depth sort of looks than I, and then we'll be going through that, and I'm excited to see that when we know what's happening with the roster. I think that'll be a good thing, and Mitch, you will be taking sole lead on that, my friend. But yeah, so let's get on to the next one there. You're welcome. Harbaugh.
That's a steal.
As soon as I saw this name, I thought, how have we managed to get? Is this John's son, or
one that just got hired for the Chargers?
The other one, I can't remember.
Yeah.
There's too many of them in the league, if you ask me now. But we've got a new special teams coordinator, which it was Deshaun Shed for us last year, or this season, wasn't it? And unfortunately, he's gone.
He got a promotion. He's with the Dolphins.
Yeah, dude. It's
Was it-
fair play, but
Wasn't
I
it
think,
Larry? Did we have Larry Izzo last
oh,
year?
Laz Izzo last year.
Yeah, we had
Yep.
we had Izzo last year,
Yeah,
and he did a
then
good
just-
job.
Special teams has always been, I think, something that Seattle can pride themselves on. We never look as Jim's son. Thank you, Ben. See, we know someone's listening. And if anyone else is and want to chime in, please feel free. We'll try to get to any questions shortly.
Yeah, keep telling us how wrong we are about things. That's good.
Yeah, dude.
Someone
I'm
needs to tell us.
That's it. I'm not too proud to say, wow, I'm wrong. So there you go, Jim's son. Jim, John, same people to me. But yeah, I mean, I think this, obviously, again, he spent so long in Michigan, which I genuinely think, I think the majority of the sort of NFL and Seahawks fan base look at this and think that's why he's been brought on board. You know, Jim, Jay, John, yeah, all the J's, you know, man, that's it. But I'm excited to see what happens here. Again, this is going to be very much a matter of personnel, who we've still got, what he's going to do, who we draft. Yeah, I mean, special teams, it's a big thing, but it's never something that's spoken about a lot, and it's something I probably need to do a bit more research on. But gentlemen, the floor is yours. Mitch, what do you think?
I'm a little. I don't want to be negative. It's not normally my way, but I'm a little disappointed with this one because Izzo was one of the coaches I hoped we'd still maintain, and I know that Jay Harbaugh is best friends with Mike McDonald. So I feel like we may have taken on, talented as he is. Granted, like I know he's a talented coach and I know he's a really good prospect, but I feel like we kind of removed someone who had done a really good job with our franchise. Maybe didn't need to or want to leave, and we brought in someone to give them an opportunity where, you know, perhaps there might have been an opportunity somewhere else. You know, maybe and there were 4 coaches I wanted to keep. Sanjay Lal, wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator, was one. BT Jordan, the pass rush specialist, was another. Andy Dickerson was another, and Larry Izzo was the 4th. And we've now got rid of 3 of those. And BT Jordan is no longer listed as a member of staff on a number of websites, despite the fact that he just still seemed to be employed by us. So I think that's maybe another one. So we'll have lost all 4 of my 4 guys I wanted to keep. And this feels like it might have been a bit unnecessary, but that's my take.
Go on, Brayden.
Yeah, I can respect that take. I think a lot of the reason we kind of got rid of everyone is to give. Sorry, someone banged upstairs. What's going on?
100% a child.
Yeah, I think it was kind of let's let McDonald have his way. Let's not hold him back anyway. Let's not hold back any personnel. And as much as I actually liked Waldron, I didn't think he was that bad of an offensive coordinator, but I think we have upgraded. I think I just think that this hire was mostly because let's give him the reins. You don't want to kind of just half give him the reins. You want to give him the full power. And I think John and Jody both kind of understood that with these moves. So
yeah, agreed. I mean, we also have, like, you look at the rest, sort of as you said before as well. Thank you, Mitch, for putting that up. So Ben has said quite rightly there, special teams has been consistent for us, and obviously we are a community podcast. We're all about 12. So can I just say thank you very much to Jonas, who was our guest last week, for pointing out the fact that it was the Ron Harbaugh's son and it was Larry Izzo, not Deshaun Shared. Sorry, I apologize. And from Scott, yes, Mitch is a coach's kiss of death.
Yeah, I named 4 coaches that I want to keep, and they all go. Love that. I should stop.
You had Latin America comment on up there too.
Yeah, we're reaching every corner at the moment. But Germany, we got Latin. I think that's the Brazilian.
So
that's the Brazilian Seahawks, I believe, as well.
Yeah, no, thank you again. Everyone who's followed us, has interacted with us. You know, we're more than happy to have any of you come on this. This is a podcast sort of for 12s, by 12s, and with 12s. You know, we're not precious on who we have. All we ask is that you you please don't swear for us. But, but yeah, so I mean, let's look at the other coaches then. So the other coaches, we've got BT Jordan, Carl Scott remains well. Then we've got Kirk Olivadotti, who's now the linebacker coach. Jay Harbour, who's then brought on Devin Fitzsimmons as assistant special teams coach. Ryan Grubb's in. We've got Jake Peaks in as now as a passing game coordinator, who was with the Rams last season. So that's something I'm really interested to see how he utilizes a lot of our weapons there. You've got Scott Huff on the O-line, Frisman Jackson as a wide receiver coach, Kennedy Polamalu, who I believe is the uncle of Troy. Isn't he?
That's a nice move.
That's some juice.
Running backs coach, yeah. And then Charles London is the QB coach. And we're still waiting for a tight ends coach and D-line coach, but we know Aidan Durday can take that. So, again, thank you for Germany, the Latin Seahawkers. Everyone is sort of chipping in here. Now, that was the coaches. I think we've all followed the news. I think it's time to get to some speculation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, as we are doing this talking cap series, we're all going to be going through some potential cap variations. What it would look like if we cut people, and I'm fully aware that at some point on social media I am going to get the Seahawks fan base coming for me, and this maybe isn't the one. I've got another one where I've just called it "Burn It All Down," and that one may ruffle some
upset some people.
Yeah, it upset me writing it. But this one is just sort of the cut, resign, restructure. I've not even looked at the free agents or trades for this, because by the time I'd done my restructures, my resigns, and my cuts, I managed to free up over £30 million worth of space. I used over the cap with their calculator for a lot of this as well, which was really helpful. But I'll just get straight into it. I am going to cut. Ben, nice try. I'm going to cut Monet, saving us $5 million. I'm going to cut Nick Ballore. This might get me some hate. Great locker room guy, well loved within the fan base, but a fullback who can kind of play linebacker, is a special teams captain. I think we can get younger. I think we can get more explosive. I said, if you're going to go fullback, you look at people like your Charbonnet, your Derek Young, and as Mitch pointed out as well in our chat, Levi Bell's still there. They're the options there, and I think linebacker, we're going to be addressing that at some point anyway. Special teams, let's see what Harbaugh can do. And as everyone predicts, I'm going to cut Jamal Adams just to save us that 16.5 mil, because I love the guy. I think he was a great player when fit, but the best ability is availability, and he's not available. Come on, boys. Feel free. Fire away. What do you think of that?
Do you want to go first, Brayden?
Sure. I agree with the first, and I actually agree with all of them. As much as I hate, I like Adams. I feel like Adams gets a lot of unnecessary hate. You got to feel for him. He's had how many season-ending injuries? Like, it's tough. That's not easy to come back from. I'm not trying to excuse his behavior, because some of his behavior was childish. Sorry, I had to think there for a second. But yeah, he's not available. So I honestly hope he would retire, because that's been some of the news that I've been hearing around too, is he's been contemplating whether or not he still wants to play. He's got the money. He already has the money. Retire, or maybe a change of scenery would be best for him. I think another person that I actually would like to cut is Jones. That's someone else I would add.
Save that for your one. Save it for your one.
Okay.
He was this far away from being on mine.
Yeah.
Go on, Mitch. I'm waiting for my character assassination from you. Come on.
No, I'm not going to go in too hard here. I think it's worth mentioning that those cap numbers that we've put there in the re-sign column, they seem quite quite low, but they are, a lot of those are based on first year of new deals being fairly cap friendly. I think Parkinson would average around 6 to 7 million.
Not even got to them yet.
I know. Okay, but anyone who's watching on YouTube who might be looking at those numbers thinking they're a little low, but they are first year numbers on contract extensions. But I won't mention those. Regarding cutting Ballore, I think it's unnecessary. However, I will, in your defence, I will say that if Derek Young is fit next year and Jarek Reed comes back fit and ready to go, we've got two studs with real leadership qualities to take on the mantle of leading and captaining that special teams unit. So I think in terms of his leadership and impact, if we've got those two players fit, I think they can really carry the torch for us on special teams. So maybe realizing 2.8 million there isn't such a crazy idea. With Adams, I'm not going to talk. Yeah, thinking, man. But I don't think it will be popular because he's kind of got that Luke Wilson team mascot kind of thing going on, and a lot of people really love the Between Two Ballores series, and it's a good guy to have around. Plus, that positional
dude. That's the worst thing.
I mean, in a pinch, then maybe that's a tough decision. With this scenario you've put here, realizing 30 million of caps, that's a lot of cap. There's a lot of bold decisions, and I think people need to realize as well, 8 to 9 million of that new cap would go on the draft picks. There'd be some going there to injured reserve and to special teams as well. So that 30 million is probably more like 16. 16. So that allows some free agent acquisitions on top, right? And so yeah. Monet, I think, is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think that's got to be done. I'll power through the rest because I want you guys to do yours as well. So I'm going to re-sign Williams. I put him on a multi-year. I think it was a 3-year deal because he's still only 30 and he's still got juice. I think he's a great D-line player that can be moved across, and I think Mike McDonald will salivate at that. So that's 14.3 for his first year cap hit, and it did go up for the next couple of years. Re-signed Jordan Brooks at 8 million on his first year. That was a 4-year extension I put him on. Then Colby Parkinson, 3 million for next year, just because I see him as a fantastic red zone threat. He's a great locker room guy. He gels well with Disley, who we'll speak about next. I've re-signed John Rattigan as a middle linebacker because special teams, middle linebacker, if you're going to have one, have an actual linebacker, not a fullback who can play linebacker as well. And then Evan Brown, I have re-signed him because he has the flexibility of center and guard. He proved he was good enough for us last season. I think he's someone we really should be looking at because he's still young. He's 26, 27. I like the way he played. And then I've gone for restructuring Lockett, which would have a first-year cap hit at 11.2. That does elevate over the next 2 years, and I think they'll put a void year in there as well. Disley, I restructured that so his first year was only 4.2 million against the cap. Diggs restructured that as well. I think they extended it for, I think it was another 2 years, 7.4 million the first year. And then Geno, I restructured that to extend it for 4 years. And that was a 17 million cap hit in the first year. Because I genuinely think that by extending Geno, if he keeps playing the way he is, he's still going to be available for someone to want to trade for him if they have younger QBs who can't do anything, and then we can look to move on as well. But that, as Mitch said, when we factor in sort of the draft class, IR, everything like that, we'll be left with about 16 to 18 million max, which would allow us some free agent moves. But I didn't even look at them for this one. That's next time. And if we'll go on to Mitch's one next. So Mitch, talk us through it.
A couple of bits here. So that Monet value should be 5 or 4.5 rounded up to 5. Don't know why it says 6. So that's the first thing I've noticed, which I absolutely hate and now can't unsee. And cutting Diggs there for 11. Now, I've opted in this scenario to cut Diggs and keep Adams just because I think Adams has got multi-position versatility in Mike Mack's scheme. I think he should have been playing as a linebacker at times over the last few years rather than as in coverage. But in this new system, a linebacker will find himself in coverage, will sometimes appear to be in coverage and be blitzing. Sometimes, that is a perfect Adams scenario. So what I've done here in this one, this was a scenario that was put forward, actually, that the Adams scenario was put forward by a guy from CBS on the Brock and Salk show this week. And he said that maybe a solution for the Adams situation, this is a bit out there, so bear with me, but he suggested that perhaps Adams' agent is staring down the barrel of his client retiring or being released and finding himself on the open market where he'll get nowhere near as much money as he's getting in Seattle. So maybe there could be a situation where Adams' agent goes to the Seahawks and arranges a restructure based upon performance. Hit 5 sacks, here's an escalator. Play every game this season, here's an escalator. Get us to the playoffs, here's another escalator. And give him the option to prove his fitness and his levels of performance in a new scheme, and give him the opportunity to hit the numbers, the cash numbers that are on his contract. But if he fails to do those things, then we get a cap-friendly number. And that means that Adams doesn't have to move. He gets to, fulfill his legacy at the Seahawks, because let's be honest, we gave up a lot for him and he hasn't been able to deliver that. Mm-hmm. It gives him a second punt at doing it. It avoids him hitting free agency and maybe getting very disappointed at the numbers offered to him, and saves a bit on cap. I think that scenario could be really good for all involved. So yeah, that's why Adams is there presenting a 10 million saving. So we'd get him down to around 20 million with incentives rather than 28. I think it's 28 guaranteed or something like that otherwise. And then we'd lock it similar to you. I've extended in 1 year, push some salary into bonus to spread over the 3 years, and save 12 million on his 28 million cap hit. So he'd be paid 16 this year, which is far more like what we got from him last year, 60 million, wide receiver and a team leader. I think that's a good value. And then on this one, I've freed up that room to try and pick off a couple of Baltimore talents. We've got Geno Stone with a first-year hit of 5 million. I imagine that contract would be somewhere in the region of 7 to 8, but first year at 5. Patrick Queen, again, averaging about 20 million on a 4-year deal, but first year cap hit of 14. I think that's doable. And Justin Madubuike would be an absolute dream addition to this offensive line with his positional flexibility, his 13 sacks last year, absolute box office player, and also was dropped into coverage in Mike Mack's system, which is something I think Jaron Reed is going to raise an eyebrow at when he's asked to pick up a tight end, to be honest, next year. But it will happen. It happened, I think, on 6 occasions last year on 4th downs. Both defensive tackles dropped into coverage and the linebackers replaced them on the offensive line. So on the defensive line. So expect those crazy situations, and Madubuike potentially could be one of the guys doing it. And then I've got a Dre Jones trade on there. I like Dre Jones, and I think he will be better in this system than he was last year in our system. But there's a 13.3 million saving there and a potential for maybe a high third draft pick there for Draymond Jones. That could just be hard to turn down if someone offered it. So that scenario would free up 14 million, which is approximately what we'd need to sign our draft class and pay injured reserve and special teams. What do we think?
Brayden, would you like to go first?
You go first, Josh.
Do you know what?
At the bit.
I like it. I mean, I said this like with Adams, the general consensus that everyone wants to kick him off the team because of his injury history, and I get it. I completely get it. I said the best availability is availability. However, he is a game changer. I've said for a long time the man needs to be moved to linebacker and let him do his thing there. If, like you said, it hits the open market, people will look at that injury history and go, oh, that's a bit rich for my blood. I'm not going to risk it. He's not going to earn that type of cash out there. Cutting Diggs, I can see the rationale. I really can. I just think he's more of a captain than some others we might have on the team. Although saying that, Spoon will be a defensive captain at some point. We all know this. the free agents. So I knew you were going to go for these anyway because we've had these chats, and I agree with all of them. If you're going to get rid of Diggs, you bring on Stone, then you've got Love as well. Brilliant. And Dre Jones, I was this far away from putting him in to trade on my one. But I think Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald. Yeah.
My Lord. I listened to someone else who was doing that the other day. Mike McDonald, I think, will look at his skill set and think, I could do things with that. But again, the cap hits big, and that's the biggest thing that I think they're going to be looking at. I mean, Mike Max already turned around and said he and John are looking at these caps, and he's letting John handle the business side of it. He's obviously given him a short list of who he wants to retain. The rest, he's just sort of, John, you know these guys, you know what to do here. Off you go. So I like it. But then every time you present me with this stuff, it's always really well thought out and the rationales behind it. And I hate it because I really want to hate some of them. And I'm like, no, you've explained it really well. Thanks, mate. Brayden, it's on you, dude.
Yeah, I like it except for Diggs. That's the only one. Just because I'm
wearing the Diggs jersey.
Yeah, obviously. I got the Diggs jersey. No, I think restructure is probably going to be the biggest thing with him because he is such a leader. Love proved that he's that guy. They're really, unless Adams is willing to change to linebacker, there's really no space for Adams on the roster. That's the bottom line. And I think he's too prideful to switch positions. I really do, just the kind of player he is. And no one's going to trade for him, not for the money that we're paying for him. So, but Jones, I could see that too, just because it wasn't like he was bad for us. It's just when you have Williams is better. And I'd rather put that money towards Williams because Williams has got some tank. So there's some juice left in the tank. So I don't know. But I like everything else. I love the free agent pickups too. Start poaching that defense from the Ravens. Why not?
Yeah, I think the reason I've cut Diggs there is I think Adams, you could restructure that on a performance related structure, and it would make sense more than Diggs. And if you keep Adams, and then you pick up Geno Stone, and then you've also got J Love, and you've got Jerick Reed getting more game time next year. That's a full safety room that's quite versatile. And also, you mentioned there about Adams potentially being a bit prideful and not being able to, or not wanting to change positions. I think with Mike Mack's defense, linebackers become safeties or corners very freely. So Adams will have to sometimes be a run-stuffing middle linebacker. Sometimes he'll be a corner. Sometimes he'll be a deep safety. Sometimes, he's in the box anyway. He's going to have to really mix it with what he does regardless. And when he signed that big contract with us, he didn't call himself a safety. He called himself a defensive weapon. Well,
that's true.
The safeties in the Mike Mack defense are Swiss Army knife defensive weapons. And so that is exactly what Adams has always said he is. This would be an opportunity to go, here's some escalators, here's your environment, center stage, wreak havoc, and earn as much money as you can, but it will be, pro bono, what you do, So that's why Diggs took the chop, because I don't think that restructure on him works as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
Jerick Reed is just Quandre Diggs 2.0, if you ask me anyway. He's a ready-made replacement. Brayden, we've come to you. Got the last 10 minutes of the show, my friend. It's on you. What would you do?
So I know he's old, but first person I want to re-sign is Bobby. Bobby is he's too iconic. He's too much of the heart of the defense because he's not bad. He's still playing at a high level. Obviously, he's not as good as he once was, but that is someone that I would focus on because you need that leadership, especially with a lot of the young guys. If not, someone that they could poach that would be a fairly cheap person is Kyle Van Noy. I know he's not as great as he once used to be, but he's still he's a BYU guy. That's why
some bias coming in here.
I watched one of his games at BYU where he single-handedly won the game for BYU. I think he scored 3 defensive touchdowns, and that's why BYU won. So I've always been impartial to Van Noy. But I think we could make a lot of potential moves. I think Monet's gone. I really do. He was injured. There's no reason to pay him. Jones, I think there is a little bit of a trade market, so I agree with that. But I think Lockett needs to restructure, because if not, I've also heard his name on the chopping block too. As painful as that is, he's not getting any younger. And with the receiver core that we have of DK, JSN, and Bobo, potentially, because that's something that Grubb said he wants
Tariq Young.
Tariq Young as well.
Yep.
Oh, let's not forget Dwayne Eskridge.
Yeah.
Sorry, anyone listening.
He's still on the roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I think we need to re-sign Evan Brown, and another person that I would like to re-sign on the line is Lewis. When Lewis is healthy, he's an amazing guard. Our offensive line was not terrible. They were just not healthy. Everyone's like, oh, that's still their weak point. Not really. If those 5 guys stayed healthy, that's a great line. But most of what you guys said is I agree with. So just Bobby's that's my focus point.
I think it's going to be a matter of, does Mike Mack see Bobby as a fit to his defense? As Mitch has said, that defense has to be dynamic. Linebackers can switch into nickel, into the safety. They can hit the line. Bobby, as much as we all love him, and I've said this on previous pods, he's lost that step, and I think that is going to be integral to whether we resign. This is where someone like Jordan Brooks, I think, will be.
Yeah.
He'll leapfrog him in sort of desirability. It pains me saying that. I think the Lockett thing, anyone who's watching, if you've been on social media, Seahawks, Twitter, X, whatever, you will see a lot of speculation about Lockett being a cap casualty. He doesn't necessarily need the money because he is now the Seahawks' premier real estate agent, isn't he? So he'll be getting Mike Mack a new house and, getting a decent commission check from that anyway. But yeah, that'd be another one. That'd be gut wrenching to see it go. But you have to look at the rebuild, what we're going to do, where we want things to go. Are we going to go younger? Do we need those experienced heads? Obviously, he's a team captain as well. Is he the type of captain Mike McDonald's going to want? Or is he going to want someone younger, more aggressive?
I've also heard Reek Woolen could be on the chopping block too, which I think is a little crazy, a little premature, but
with his cap hit, not a chance. Like what was he, 5th round pick? He's got the 5th round pick cap. He had one down year because he was found out with tackling. Hopefully a new defensive scheme and system will be able to help benefit that. He's still elite in coverage. There are no two ways about that. People don't throw at him. They just throw in the flat and allow people to run at him. If someone trains him how to tackle, get him to spend some time with the linebackers. They'll teach him how to tackle. I don't think that's going to happen. That's pure speculation, pure hyperbole. It's
the other thing is, because of where we drafted him, his cap hit is minuscule in a year when we've got a lot of cap problems. I think with us losing Mike Jackson into free agency this year, and we're going to need Woolen more than we've needed him in his first 2 years, and he's still cheap. And look at what Mike Mack has done with players on rookie deals. I mean, look at Geno Stone suddenly hits the free agent market and is getting money, but last year was a couple of 100,000. He got huge amounts of productivity out of players with small contracts, and obvious weaknesses that he's able to scheme around and patch up with other players covering and things. So I get why Woolen might be a casualty in terms of, if you do scramble the defense and he's not the corner when the ball is snapped and he swaps with a linebacker, I don't want to see him as a middle linebacker with that tackling technique. Yeah. But if that was to be
what tackling technique?
But you can see how that would work with Spoon, right? If Spoon swapped, you're happy with that, but you couldn't do it with Woolen, and you might move Woolen into the middle because you think they're going to try and get the ball to a tight end or a running back in the flats and put him one-on-one with Woolen. Woolen's suddenly not there. Plan B, next read, who is Woolen up against? Oh, look, it's a tight end. That is still good. Do you see what I mean? The quarterback can still find who Woolen's covering, and so yeah, maybe there will be some teething issues there, but he's a really talented back, and he's got such a small cap here.
Small cap here. He's got all of the athletic profile for him is perfect for the modern cornerback. He's long, he's quick. We know he can pick a ball off. It's just and this is where you can tell he played receiver before he played cornerback. His tackle technique is off. You can train tackle technique. I have taught tackle technique to people who have never played a contact sport in their life. And then a year or two down the line, it's ingrained and they are brilliant. It's something that can be trained, especially from high level professional coaches. So it's something that we're all going to be paying attention to. When we've got the coming pods, we've still got more talking cap. We've still got more free agent moves. Obviously, there'll be news coming out every single day. Whether it's true or not is a different matter.
See, I hope they focus on Kobe Bryant a little bit more too. I know he didn't play much this past season because he was hurt, but I like Kobe Bryant too. I think he's got a high potential as well if put in the right position, because I don't think corner is necessarily his strong suit.
He is bang on exactly the mold that you want in a Mike Mack defense as well. That's a guy who can play the perimeter, a guy who can play nickel. That's a guy who can rush the passer. That's a guy who has a penchant for punching out the football and making big plays. You could have him move to the flat, cover the hook, cover the curl, go deep, swap out with Diggs, and then Diggs come up in run support. Honestly, you don't need to be a star player in a Mike Mack defense. You need to have a well-rounded skill set and a cheap cap hit. That's exactly what he is. So yeah, perfect.
And with with someone mentioning Kobe Bryant, Mitch, have you got a message from someone we need to read out?
Yes, that's exactly what. Yeah, we were both plugging the same thing.
Yeah.
So Scott Anderson, who posted a really good question actually on our first pod, has posted another one, which is a Geno-related question, which is super relevant as his money is now guaranteed this year, meaning that the cut for Geno is off the table. Not that all of us thought that was likely, but we know now it is impossible to save that $12.8 million that he is now guaranteed. So Scott's question was, with his money now being guaranteed, would you start Geno as QB1 or look to trade him? And if you did trade him for, say, a second-round pick, would you consider combining our first and our second in a trade package to get up into the top 10 and take a quarterback? So it's a multifaceted question, but Josh, you go first. How does that sound to you?
Go first. Let's do this quick. We're running out of time. I would keep Geno. We've got bigger things to worry about at the moment. We know he can run an offense. We know he can play at a high level. I don't want to take a risk on a rookie QB with a rookie team of coaches who are trying to instill something new. Let Geno mold with this team, and he can still bring the best out of everyone. So I wouldn't trade him just yet. I think a couple of years down the line, we'll see what happens there. Brayden, go.
Keep Geno. Geno can get us there. I really feel that way. This quarterback class is deep. Draft a quarterback later on. Let him sit for a year or two. Let him learn the system, and then give him the reins.
Love that. Yeah, for me, I'd be looking to trade back our 16th pick and pick up a lineman to put in front of Geno. Not necessarily build around Geno, but definitely build a wall in front of him. And see, what you can do with a bit of time. So I wouldn't be looking to get rid of Geno, even if it was a high second or an early first. A late first.
There you go, Scott. Answered.
Answered for
right. So we're nearly out of time. Brayden, tell everyone where we can find you.
All right, so I'm on all social media. It's Noble Sports Guy. I recently changed the name because I do have a co-host, and she's not a guy. She's a gal. So. But yeah, so if you just type in Noble Sports Guy, you'll be able to find me. I'm on all the socials. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram and Facebook. But give me a follow. And if you are a female athlete or you're a female that works in sports, hit me up, and I would love to have you on for an interview. So.
Gosh. And obviously, if you're watching this or listening to us when it goes live on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Castbox, wherever else we've connected to, you can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook. Join us. We've got a Discord as well, and we'll be sharing that on our X as well. But I'm just going to say thank you so much, Brayden. It's been amazing having you.
Thank you for letting me be on.
Absolute pleasure, man. And with that, let's just end with a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
To everyone, bye.